Welcome to Keiser Voices, the story of success, brought to you by Keiser University Graduate School, here where the academic world meets personal triumph. Join us today as we dive into the captivating tales of success.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Keiser Voices. Unfortunately, I couldn't be a part of the recording for this episode, but you guys are going to be in great hands with our favorite guest, Dr. Dias, who is back with some special guests of his own to talk about the myths and realities about training and nutrition. I hope you enjoy the following conversation.
So today I have great guests. We're going to talk about myths and realities about training and nutrition. So I am the program director, Stefane Dias. I'm the program director for the Master's Degree in Exercise and Sports Science. I am from Brazil. I did my bachelor's in Brazil. 2002, I went to Russia. I did my master's. I did my PhD. Back in 2008, I moved to Florida. I love it. Didn't like the cold in Russia. And I coached professional athletes for many years. In 2015, I joined Keiser University, and I'm here since. So it's a pleasure to have my guests. I'm going to start introducing Flavia Pereira. Flavia is also from Brazil. She is a nutrition specialist at Absolute Rest. She has more than 18 years of expertise with sports performance, education, coaching. She is certified through Sports Society, certified sports nutrition with International Society of Sports Nutrition. She has several other certifications. She's almost done with her PhD in health and human performance. She also works at Keiser University for about 6 years, and she's been very helpful in our program with the students. So it's a pleasure to have Flavia here. Professor Kravitz. Professor Kravitz is a PhD, is a program coordinator of Exercise Science, University of New Mexico. He received several awards, including Presidential Award of Distinction on the Outstanding Teacher of the Year. He was inductee in the National Fitness Hall of Fame, also awarded by the International Fitness from the Canadian Fitness Professional Association, and he has several other awards. His resume is very long, but to summarize, he recently got honored with the Paper of the Year by the ACSM, American College of Sports Medicine. Pleasure to have you here, Professor Kravitz. And Dr. Jonathan Mike, nationally, internationally recognized speaker. He had more than 130 professional talks, including biggest events in the field, NSCA, ISSN, ACSM. His PhD with deep expertise in rotational power, eccentric training, sports performance, nutrition, and others. Dr. Mike, for more than 22 years, he teach and coach, have several chapters, 13 book chapters, multiple peer review articles, and now the best, he recently started working with us here at Keiser University in the Master's Degree of Exercise and Sports Science. So it's a pleasure to have all you guys here, and we're going to get started.
Great.
So the first question goes to Professor Kravitz. Once our topic is about the myths, so Professor Kravitz, you can talk to us about myth number one. Exercise before breakfast to burn more fat. Is that a myth or reality?
Dr. K.
That is an incredible question. And we have been collecting data on this particular question for many years. There are a couple of studies, small studies, investigating if you burn more fat by not eating before your resistance training workout. And for 15 years in my exercise physiology class, we have done a lab on this, and that's fall semester and spring semester. So I've done it actually 30 times with men and women that they are young adults. And what we have seen in trial after trial is that it is true if you do not eat anything before the resistance training workout, the percentage of fat, using the respiratory exchange ratio as the determinant, is slightly higher fat. However, we have found in every single student that when they have a light breakfast and mix with carbohydrate, protein, and a little fat, they actually have, and this is within 2 hours of the workout, they actually have more energy and they work out harder and longer. And in the comparison, they actually burn more fat calories. So my recommendation, without a doubt, to this myth is everybody should have something light, not a big breakfast, but within 2 hours of their workout, something light. The extra energy from the food will let them work harder and longer.
That's great. That's great. If Mike wants to compliment anything, or Flavia, to this.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I can attest to this. I mean, for those that may not be aware, I mean, Dr. Kravitz was my PhD chair for many years at New Mexico. So if somebody would have asked, hey, you should get on a podcast together, like that would be great. So I'm glad to be on. Yeah, Dr. K is right. I mean, I think people get very overzealous in terms of not just meal frequency, but like meal composition and, fat loss or potential fat loss. I mean, if you're doing something like an exercise, like, walking, and for certain types of demographics, I mean, walking at, 2 miles an hour, 3.5 miles an hour can actually be classified as hard and vigorous for certain types of populations. But for like general population, people that go to the gym, if you're doing walking, I mean, yeah, the lower to moderate intensity does exhibit a higher percentage of fat utilization, but the end game or the long game is really the amount of calories like totally expended across either that session or a series of sessions. So, and Dr. K is correct. I mean, when you get into the upper echelons of higher exercise intensity, I mean, you need glucose, like you need carbohydrates to feed all that system. I mean, these are not opinions, like these are like physiological, like bioenergetic facts, right? So yeah, the statement's correct for sure.
Nice. Flavia?
Yes, I definitely agree. And in terms of students, I think Dr. Mike explained really well. My students get really confused with this. So that's something I have to spend time with them a lot when I'm explaining, yes, respiratory ratio, we burn more fat at those intensities. Oh, so I should just walk. No, you shouldn't just walk. Like exercising at higher intensity will actually, just burn more calories. So you end up burning more fat. And usually they take a while to get confused. And I think there's a lot of misinformation out there regarding that. And when I get clients and when I do my nutrition consulting, I think because the fasting is so popular now for different reasons, right? But also because of fat, people love this idea of working out fasted in the morning. I'm not a big fan of working out fasted in the morning. I prefer having something like Dr. Kravitz said. I think we just make them work out more and the gains will be better in the long term. Especially having a little carb, a little protein, I think is beneficial. So in the fasting versus no fasting, I'm more on the no fasting. And honestly, if fasting is something the clients want to do for other reasons, I recommend the fasting later in the day instead of before working out in the morning. So.
Yes, and just to add to this, probably this originated, that's why we see sometimes and often in the internet, because a lot of bodybuilders, they still have the old school mentality. But you see, like we just explained here, it's not necessarily, and then actually it's not pleasant, if you wake up and then go straight fasting to do your exercise and not feel as good, not as energetic, like Professor Kravitz said. Cool. So I have now my first question for Dr. Mike. What are some of the biggest missing or confusions around pre-workout supplements in terms of dosage and timing?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I'm currently finishing up a sport nutrition class right now for, Kaiser, and we just recently finished talking about this same thing. I think the biggest I mean, there's a lot of confusing components, but if you look at some of the main like pre-workout ingredients, obviously there's caffeine, there's creatine, there's beta alanine, and what I explain, and I've even done talks on this for sure, is how I explain is that you have three different types of pre-workouts. However, physiologically, they do very much the same thing, right? Like creatine and beta alanine, like physiologically, they do the exact same thing in terms of, adding phosphate groups on to, creatine phosphate and, enhancing buffering capacity, like for high intensity exercise. But however, like the timing and the dosage is a little bit different. For creatine, it used to be thought that, like historically, that you needed 5 grams of creatine, but you also need what's called like a glucose transporter to enhance it into the muscle, like an apple juice or orange juice. I mean, that's been debunked for probably close to 20 years now. You just put it in water, 5 grams, drink it, or mix it in with some other pre-workout stuff. However, older adults actually need more creatine, and some of it you may even have a genetic deficiency in creatine by way of a deficient genetic enzyme. That's fairly rare, but if you look at position statements from ISSN in terms of the creatine position statements, 5 grams traditional dose, but even older adults, they actually need more, minimum of 10 grams, maybe even 15 or 20. And you can either take that all at once or really spread that out over a course of a day, a couple of different feedings. Beta alanine is very similar to creatine in terms of its physiological like mechanism, but beta alanine needs to be like 4 to 6 grams. And again, it can be all at once or spread out the dose. Now, here's some of the biggest differences between beta alanine and creatine in terms of how they're placed in pre-workouts. Anything under 5 grams of creatine, if it's in a product, you're pretty much wasting your money. If you have a product that is 3 grams of creatine or 2, you're really better off either 1, not buying the product, or 2, buying separate creatine micronized powder and using that, separately. For beta alanine, 4 to 6 grams is typically going to be the sweet spot in terms of maximizing carnosine concentrations in the muscle. However, most products on the market and most companies, you actually will not see 4 to 6 grams. You will see 2 to 3. And the reason is because of the mild side effect called paresthesia, which is like a mild tingling of like the fingers or the back of the neck. And nobody really knows why it happens, but it goes away within an hour of exercise. The reason why I say that is because if you have pre-workout in drinks or powders or pill form, that's 4 to 6 grams for beta alanine. From a marketing perspective, a consumer perspective, if they start experiencing side effects, then they may not buy the product anymore, which will hurt the bottom line of the actual company, right? So there's kind of like this delicate balance, creatine, beta alanine, and of course caffeine, typically maximized ergogenic, response or performance enhancing is going to be 3 to 6 grams per kg, which is really high. And so you might want to consider going a lower dose, at least at first.
Mm-hmm. Just to add to this, the beta alanine, I use creatine. I'm going to talk later. Flavia is also going to talk. And one thing here, and then I have this group of colleagues from UFPR in Brazil, the university that I did my bachelor's, and they researched beta alanine a lot. And they did a nice presentation like a year or so ago. So if you feel that tingling and then you don't like it, for example, my wife, she doesn't take it because she doesn't like it. With me, on the other hand, when I feel that, I say, I'm ready for my workout. So I feel that and I like it. So see, it's more like your choice. How do you feel? But to avoid this is break down this dosage that Dr. Mike said, let's say 5 to 6 grams, but in small doses, let's say 1 or 0.8 grams throughout the day. So you still have the carnosine effects, the buffering, all the stuff the beta alanine does for you, but minimize the tingling, because when you have all at once, like I do, like 2 scoops of this thing, and you really feel that, Flavia, you want to add something?
Yeah, I was gonna add, I think I agree with Dr. Mike, what he said, but I was also thinking of the caffeine content and the timing of that in pre-workouts. How important is that? And the dosage, right? So if we're looking at the ergogenic benefits of caffeine in a pre-workout, like we want to look at 3 to 6 milligrams per kilogram, right? So for me, it's around 180 milligrams to more, to double that 360 milligrams. So if I'm looking at the benefits of caffeine in a pre-workout, you have to also look at the dosage. So 3 to 6 milligrams per kilogram, and that's relative to the person's body weight. And then 30 to 60 minutes before the workout, right? So the timing would be important as well. Regarding creatine, all studies that I am aware, and maybe, Dr. Mike or Dr. Kravitz more experienced, maybe they have other studies to bring, but the timing of creatine seems irrelevant. So we can take creatine anytime. If there's, in a practical perspective, if you remember taking with the pre-workout, then sure, take it with a pre-workout. But more importantly, you want to have the dosage once a day, or you can break it into 2 dosages, no less than 2 grams, right? Each dosage, like he said. But let's say I'm just taking 5 grams. I can take that scoop anytime, not necessarily before the workout. So it's not like a time dependent thing, but the caffeine definitely.
Perfect. Just to add on the creatine. So many people, they ask this, should I take it before or after the workout? So in simple terms, what Flavia is saying is the literature proves that either or works, so you can take it before or after, and they both work. Now there's caveat. With me personally, I like it to take it after, because sometimes I feel a little full to digest. Depends on the workout that I'm going to do. If the workout is more like a heat training or something that's going to create acidosis, I don't feel like having creatine before, but right after with my post-workout meal, whatever. But some people, again, they feel like it, they've been using, and the results in the long term, they're similar. So before, after, it's your choice. Now, if you feel like this, okay, I have trouble digesting, I have some athletes that I coach to, they have that coach, I can't do this before, let's say a baseball practice, I'd rather take after, no problem. And they still have the recovery and all of that. And just one more thing to add to the creatine talk. I put it here. This is the position statement in the International Society of Sports Nutrition. So you can individualize the dose. Here we say, okay, so there's probably people heard about the loading phase or saturation phase. So that means if you never use creatine, you could do a loading phase. So typically goes, let's say, 20 to 25 grams. And you divide this in, let's say, 3 to 4 doses a day for 5 to 7 days. And you do this loading phase. After that, you get into the maintenance phase that they just talked about. But according to ICSN and some research, you can individualize this by, for the loading phase, 0.3 grams per kilogram per day. So this for a 70 kilogram individual, about, let's say, 155 pounds, is 20 grams per day. For somebody like Mike, that's a big boy, 260 pounds, if you do the math, it's about 35 grams per day for the loading phase. So that means you break down 4 doses of 8.8, 8.5 grams 4 times during the whole week. And then after that, you go to a maintenance phase. In the maintenance phase, you could do 0.1 gram per kilogram, or just like Flavia said, keeping that 5, 6 grams. If you want to take more, so for Mike, if you individualize, would be close to 10 grams per day. So my recommendation would be dividing, splitting that dose in 2 or 5 grams would be easier for digestion and even more chance, to utilize and absorb all of that. Professor Kravitz, good?
You all are correct. And years ago, I explored with creatine, and I found it is best for the individual to decide, because I really enjoyed it more after workout.
And there's another plus. Remember, after the workout, if you do like high intensity interval training or something intense that you're not really focused on losing weight, you need carbs. So then you can have your simple carbs with creatine at that time, So that's another way for you to have it instead of just having the water, because sometimes people don't like it because you mix with the water, right? It's almost like you
Yeah, I mean, the last several months, I mean, I've taken like 5 to 10 grams. I'll mix it with a like a hydration stick and then some like cyclic dextrin, just some simple carbs, and I mix all that up, have it in the workout, so it's a little bit of flavor, and I can drink something while I'm training.
Great. I
Yeah.
have a question for Flavia. Talking about energy drinks now. Are they really important for let's say athletics, to develop speed, performance, or how do they compare, let's say, just regular creatine? Because especially for the youth, the pre-workouts and those, they're popular, very popular.
Yes. So you're comparing energy drinks with creatine or caffeine?
No, caffeine in this case. Caffeine, yes.
Caffeine.
No more
Okay.
creatine.
Okay. Yeah. So I was lucky to be a part of several studies where we compare individual energy drinks with the same amount of caffeine, so the matched amount of caffeine. Let's say, we have the Gorilla energy drink, and there was 200 milligrams of caffeine in the proprietary blend, which has some other things there, like taurine, B vitamins, etc. We would match that caffeine, so give the participants 200 milligrams of pure caffeine or the energy drink, and they would look the same, right? So they didn't know which one was which. And we did some performance tests and like a couple cognitive or mood tests. And I have to say, I think, yeah, we did 4 or 5 studies so far, and they all had shown no significant difference between the pure caffeine and the energy drink. Again, matching the amount of caffeine that the energy drink has. So what that has showed us is that, first, the proprietary blend has a mix of several things. We don't know exactly the effect of those things together, right? Like maybe they have taurine, maybe they have L-theanine, but the dosages on those can be so small that the effect is really no different than just taking the caffeine, or the mixed effects of those blends may not have any effect with just having caffeine. So after all those studies, and then thinking about all this, I still have student athletes who ask, no, but I like Celsius, should I drink it? If you prefer Celsius than coffee, then yes, and you're looking for those performance benefits of caffeine, really, then drink the Celsius. But I don't know the safety. I cannot assure them about the safety of the proprietary blends. It seems like they are healthy, but again, we don't know how the mixture of them together, what is the effect? Sometimes they will have lion's mushroom with L-theanine, with, I don't know, taurine with B vitamins, and then the other one will have completely different mix. So that, for a long answer, I would say as long as it's the dosage of the caffeine is matching the 3 to 6 milligrams per kilogram for the person having the energy drink or the caffeine, it's kind of a preference.
And just as a personal feedback here, like you said, some of those companies, they're stacking a lot of energizers, let's say this way, and the problem is during the workout is fine, but the problem is if they start messing with your sleep, now could become a problem in the long term. And in the majority of people, and then you see athletes, they use those pre-workouts, those Monster Energy, drinks and etc. They have trouble sleeping, and the caffeine, no. So like you said, what is the most important about those pre-workouts or those energy drinks is the caffeine content. So if you match the caffeine content, you have a pump, you have energy for your workout, but naturally it's easier for your body to go back and sleep and then get the cycle of renewing instead of just, having more or don't feeling the results. So that's,
Yeah,
another.
one other thing that energy drinks are not required to put the amounts of the proprietary blend ingredients. And that's huge because maybe they will have a stimulant there like mate. Mate, very similar, very popular in Brazil, right? Mate has a lot of caffeine. Green tea extract, some other things on that proprietary blend that add to the stimulatory effect of caffeine. So yes, you feel great. But like you said, what are the consequences of that? Are we talking about athletic performance where, okay, they need that, or we're talking about students who just want some energy and then they won't be able to sleep and get into that vicious cycle of poor sleep, need more energy drink, and, so forth.
Great. I have another question for Dr. Kravitz. Talk about this myth. This is a common myth. I like this. Cardio is killing my muscle gains.
It's been a myth for a long, long time. And it's been perpetuated by a few, perhaps, ineffectively designed studies. But what we know is that in the cell, we've got some incredible organelles that sense overload and that sense the need for cardiovascular energy. And these sensors, the mitochondria, the organelles in the are very, very good at recognizing, the stimulus and then the adaptation. And in reality, for, some less experienced, trained, or shall we say entry-level individuals, it may actually be that they're just not ready to do a concurrent workout where they're doing cardiovascular training and resistance training. And so that might be a factor, of just training. And I think some of the best, there's been some great meta-analysis that show that the only group of athletes, and Dr. Mike will add on this, that may be slightly impaired are power athletes, because, power is a very unique component of fitness that has that speed and strength component. And the cardio for some power athletes may be best if it's not so immediate before the resistance training. Usually it's, the cardio before is where the impairment is, and that's the key. When there's a little bit of separation time, it seems to remove that impediment as far as, shall we say, workout performance and actual athletic performance, a little bit different, one's
Nice.
competition, one's training.
Very good. Dr. Mike, you want to add?
Yeah, sure. I talked about this before in some previous talks that I've given on like sport nutrition myths, and that's actually one of the components I've touched on is it's the difference of the perception that cardio will ruin my gains, but then there's like the actual reality of the situation, and they're nowhere near close. The perception is that people don't want to do cardio because it's things that are going to impair their strength gains. I remember there was a review article, meta-analysis, like in Sports Med journal, which is very popular, like review journal. And they took it like 1,000 individuals from collective studies. And after they did the inclusion criteria and all that other stuff, it was came out to be like 650, 670 participants. And they used various measures of knee extension, like leg press, and their cardio, I think was like running or cycling. Anyhow, they basically found that meta-analysis, if you only care about max strength, cardio is not going to affect max strength. If it's cardio and hypertrophy, it's not going to make any biological or even statistical difference. However, if you're trying to enhance your power output, it will make a difference. Then there's the other side of, okay, well, what does your frequency of cardio look like, and what is the mode of cardio? And most people think cardio is just either on the elliptical or a treadmill, walking or running, and there's there's at least a dozen types of cardio and conditioning methods that I could just run off, right here, right now. But the reality is you really have to be doing probably 5 to 7 days of cardio for, I would say, an hour and a half to 2 hours to really see visibly or metrics that is really impairing your strength or hypertrophy or really your power gains. So when people doing cardio 2 or 3 times a week, whether it's walking for 20 minutes or intervals or Stairmaster or, sled work, like it's not going to have any negative effect on your strength. In fact, I would argue that it would really help your strength, because when you're more conditioned, you're better off. You have more recovery within the training session and movement to movement, and then over the course of the subsequent training sessions.
Great, great. I have another hot topic here for Flavia about protein. Flavia, talk to us a little bit about protein. What is the dose? People sometimes they say, 30 grams is all you need. Please let her know more.
Yes. So, Dr. Antonio is my committee chair, right? So I'm slightly biased towards a higher protein and happily biased. Yes, so there are some misconceptions that you have to consume 25 to 30 grams at the most per serving of protein in order to absorb that protein, in order to stimulate muscle protein synthesis. And there was a study a couple years ago, I think 2023, that where they did 100 grams of protein in one sitting, which is hard, right? In reality, it's hard to eat 100 grams in one sitting for maybe a general smaller person. But they did show that anabolic effect was prolonged. So 12 hours later, they were still, muscle protein synthesis was still optimized. So the notion, so that's just a myth. And I think maybe it started with a study a long time ago where they found 25 to 30 grams of protein was necessary for muscle protein synthesis, but not to say that that amount is the amount required. You could have more as well. But again, practical terms, right? So we always have to try to translate to what really works for people, not what we find in a paper. So the paper, I think it was a beautiful finding, but in reality, it's hard to eat 100 grams of protein in one sitting. But at least if you want to eat 40, 50, now we know we're not wasting, protein. We're still absorbing, we're still stimulating muscle protein synthesis. And also the notion that we had to have a protein shake right after a workout, right? It was a myth that we had to run and go into the anabolic window of 30 minutes. You got to run home, get your protein shake, otherwise your gains are lost. So that's not true as long as you're having enough protein throughout the day, right? So the important thing is to make sure you're having enough protein. And the dosage that usually we go by, 1.6 to 2.2 grams per kilogram, is usually the ideal dose that I recommend. And of course, it depends on a case-by-case basis. But yes, that's what I have.
Nice. Professor Kravitz, do you want to add anything to the protein talk?
Flavia covered it wonderfully for
good. All right, no problem. I'm happy.
Yeah. Wonderful
great
explanation.
So now I have for Mike. What are some of the most undervalued, underutilized, and underrated training methods? And how do they fit in the realm of programming? This is a nice one.
I would say my top, I would say 5 for sure, not in any particular order. Isometrics, eccentric training, deceleration, aerobic development, and rotational power would be the 5 most undervalued, underutilized training methods. I say that because outside of strength and conditioning, high school, college, pro, you don't really see these methods utilized to their maximum extent. And of course, as Dr. Kravitz knows, my research background is with eccentric training, so I like to think I know a thing or two, about it. But all these methods can actually be incorporated throughout a given year or even a given training cycle. We have various methods like, triphasic training, which incorporates, isometrics, eccentrics, and even like, concentric phases of various tempos. So all of the methods actually work. Is just how you're really incorporating them and really why. And this is something I've really talked about over the last number of years. Is people focus on like the what's, like this is this training program is this, but like why are you doing it and like how are you really incorporating it are the key metrics here. And so again, I don't think one or more takes precedent over the other. I mean, if you look at the vast majority of sports are actually rotational sports to varying degrees, right? Like golf, for example, is a rotational sport, but it doesn't really require max strength or muscle hypertrophy. Okay. Like dancing, for example, like you need a lot of mobility, you need a lot of stability, you rotate a lot, but you don't really need max strength, and they're not trying to get, be professional bodybuilders. So, but again, everybody can benefit from one of these methods or multiple of methods over the course of, say, a 4 to 6 week training cycle. But it really depends on like how are you using them, and what are you really training for to maximize all their benefits.
And not only that, to add, this goes to our field. That's why you want to hire somebody qualified to work with you, because if you're just going to keep repeating what everybody does, and then most of those coaches that don't have a degree, let's say this way, or not as an advanced degree, they just copy and paste the workouts and then don't incorporate something like this isometric that's very important for activities of daily living, just for posture, like we are right now, and then a lot of other stuff, eccentric, going downstairs, moving stuff. So there's a lot of components, and rotation pretty much you can use in many activities of daily living, and people don't utilize. So great point. This leads to my next question. This goes to Professor Kravitz. Weighted vests, are they good or no? Talk to us about weighted vests. This is also popular on the internet.
Well, we've done quite a bit of work on weighted vests at UNM, and I have to admit I'm an advocate of weighted vest work. What we've found in working not with athletes, but with overweight men and women who are walking, that if you wear a weighted vest, and we've worn vests that are 5% of your body weight, 10% of your body weight, 15% of your body weight, 20% of your body weight, but for less fit individuals wanting to burn more calories using a walking protocol, a 10% weighted vest, they are definitely burning more calories. It's a comfortable experience with them. We like to use weighted vests where the weight is evenly distributed so that it's not, changing their posture in any way. And to be quite honest with you, if you just remember the 10%, because we've done the different inclines, 5, 10, 15, 20%. And for what we're talking about, slightly overweight women, a 10% weighted vest on a 10% incline, and most of 10% incline is quite challenging, but walking on a 10% incline, they're burning substantially more weight, more fat, if I should say, more calories, I think is really the better name, more calories. I think Flavia would be happy if I said more calories than walking without the weighted vest.
That's great. That's great
I'm an
idea.
Advocate.
Yeah.
I'm an advocate.
Great idea, Professor. I utilize a lot of incline walking with my clients, but I never thought about the weighted vest incline walk, so see, yeah. So that's great extra tool here. All right.
Yeah.
Flavia, yes.
Regarding the weighted vest, I wanted to try one myself. So I bought a Gold Rock last year. However, I got too much weight at once. I started with 45 pounds, and my son plays soccer, so it's like I'm just gonna walk, the whole time while he's playing, an hour and a half. And 15 minutes in, I couldn't hold. It was very hard. So yeah, so then I learned more about the percentage of body weight and kind of decrease that. And but I was very pleased for a whole year during his practice. That was my evening exercise, and I felt great. I felt like even in terms of postural and core strength was helping, and a lot of the other soccer moms started buying weighted vests. So yeah.
Great answer. And I have some other two questions for you, Flavia. So we talk about creatine. Creatine is safe. Creatine is good. But people have this question: does creatine cause balding? And also, if creatine can dehydrate, is that good or bad for sports?
Yes, so the balding myth is hilarious because a lot of the creatine researchers are bald, right? If you talk about Dr. Darren Kendall, Scott Forbes, Dr. Antonio, they are bald. But the myth came from a study with rugby players, I believe, where DHT was increased, and they kind of correlated that with the decrease in increasing hair loss. And the myth was so big that last year or a couple years ago, they did a study to investigate that. And they found that there is no correlation and no causation there between creatine and hair loss. So that's definitely a myth, a funny one though. And yes, with hydration, I think that myth also came because we do increase intracellular water with creatine, right? So we pull more water in the cells, but that actually can help with hydration instead of dehydrate. So I'm not sure if it's because of the water retention and people think, oh, I'm retaining more water, and or the fact that maybe they need to drink a little bit more water. But yes, that's a myth. It's more of a water retention inside the cell. And instead of dehydrating, it can actually help when you're exercising, then because you have more water there. So it can help with that cooling system. I don't know if Mike has anything to add, or if he's bald because he takes creatine.
Yeah, I definitely take creatine all the time, but I've had my awesome haircut for I guess about 10 years now. So, and I really like obviously what Dr. Kravitz said about weighted vests. And I remember like when I first got to UNM, you may recall like we did some preliminary stuff for some of the classes, with weighted vests. And so it's been around for many years. And of course, you can lend that application to tactical officers, SWAT officers, firefighters, and they're not, these tactical officers they're not wearing 10% like weighted vests. It's probably more like 25%. I mean, like for example, 10% for me would be 275 pounds. I mean, that's 27 pounds for me. Like that's 10%. So it's obviously relative to body weight. And when Dr. K was talking about walking on a treadmill at 10% incline with that is not an easy feat to accomplish at all. It is not easy. I mean, some of the cardio sessions that I do for walking, I'll drive it up to 15% incline at 3.5 miles an hour, but that's no weighted vest at all. So now like if I'm doing 10% with 25 pounds, whatever, I got to lower the incline to probably 8. So it's all relative, obviously, to body weight, but sometimes it's one thing to make recommendations in terms of the research and science, but then when you actually put on the vest and really do it, like you really get a sense of how things feel, like physiologically. Like you talk about the physiology, but it's really, really important to really feel it and how it's supposed to really feel like in real time. So it's great stuff.
Very nice. So we're getting close to the end, but I still have a couple questions. Professor Kravitz, there is still people on the internet talking that exercise is unsafe for older adults. Can you say something about it, please?
The concern, I believe, is older adults, many have comorbidities. They may be pre-diabetic, diabetic, they are obese, sadly, so much of our society worldwide is obese, and that, they have cardiovascular risk factors, and that the exercise actually may be contraindicated. But from all of the research we have, and we have hundreds, maybe thousands of studies, we know if someone starts progressively, the goal right now, without a doubt, for all of us is to get people moving, and then to get them moving throughout the day. And then my goal is to get them to do brisk walking, because if they're moving briskly, we know there's wonderful research that they're helping their heart and their brain, and cognitive function is a big part of the concerns with older adults. And one of the best things they can do is brisk walking, brisk moving throughout. And if people just understood that it's the progression that is the safe way to involve gradual exercise and then more, intense exercise, then everything is just wonderfully productive for these older adults. And they're going to be able to live a quality of life with a lot of energy. But my goal for everyone is brisk, brisk, brisk. Because if you're moving, move a little brisker, and you're going to help your heart and your brain. And as we all know, you're going to burn a few extra calories too.
Amazing, amazing, Professor. So we're getting towards the end. So this question is for Mike, Dr. Mike, but I want everybody to touch on because it's a good question. Outside of the foundation exercise, okay, and the science, what are some of the most valuable skills you feel trainers and coaches need to get better and utilize for career longevity and to continue to help those clients or athletes?
Okay, I would say outside of the exercise science foundational stuff is to understand business and entrepreneurship. Like, you need to be able to sell, you need to be able to understand marketing, you need to understand your specific clientele, your demographics, what people want, what people need, give them a little bit of both, understand, what it takes to, if you want a coaching business, what types of people that you actually want to work with, what types of customers you actually really want to have. I've had to really spend a lot of time over the last, 2 to 3 years understanding more of the actual business side. And I think, a lot of programs could really benefit, from that, and really teaching students just the foundational stuff about how to do that, because it's so important, especially when you work with clients and athletes, or even if you want to open up your own gym, later down the road, or be, a consultant to many other companies. Like, you have to understand the business side and all the working components, of that.
Just to add this before they talk, and we didn't plan for this, we recently launched the Sports Management and Operation Master's Degree Program in the online division. I'm also the program director for that program. So this program has been developed in Flagship originally. They're very successful over there, have a great faculty team, and now we're just launching an online division as well. So great idea, Mike. Professor Kravitz.
I'm a real advocate of setting goals. And I like short-term goals, which are, a few weeks, maybe up to a month, and then some mid-range goals up to 6 months, and then some long-term goals. But when a trainer, even a coach, is working with their clients or their athletes, I'm a real advocate of tracking progress and always setting goals so that we're always reaching. I like the fact that even at my age right now, I'm always reaching. I want to do just a little bit more. Every day, I want to try to walk just a little bit further. And I feel it's a great incentive for anybody at any age.
Nice, Professor. Very good. Flavia?
Yes, to add to what they said, I think mine's similar to Dr. Kravitz. I really try to emphasize to my students the behavior coaching. I think you can know everything, but when they leave, if they don't know how to talk to people, and how to do a little bit of motivational interviewing, how to create habits, how to translate what they know into small habits, like Dr. Kravitz said, it becomes very, very challenging. And I think with the new generation of students talking to people, the soft skills, because they are online so much, they went through COVID, they have online classes. So the actual interaction of talking to people, socializing, I think we're missing that a little bit. But yeah, the psychology part of behavior coaching, I think is extremely important for them. Yeah.
Great. So we're getting to the end. Now I have what I call against the wall. All right. So I'll put you against the wall. You got to answer quick. Don't think too much, Professor. I'm going to start with you, Professor Kravitz. Quick. What is your favorite sport?
Oh, without a doubt, football.
Football. Mike?
I'm a WWE fan, actually. Wrestling, yeah, big fan.
WWE, nice.
It's definitely a sport. It's pretty physical, but yeah,
I have a student, alumni from Orlando. He's a WWE very popular. Apollo Cruz. Apollo Cruz is a fighting name. You know, great student. He joined us in the program. He might come back next year because they make him travel a lot. So that's a great sport. Flavia?
Beach volleyball, for sure.
Cool.
I knew you'd say that. All right.
That was my sport, those are the athletes I work with, yes. And that's my dissertation population as well, so.
Awesome.
Great. I like soccer, you know. That's good. So the second question. What is the craziest thing you ever saw on the internet about exercise or nutrition? Mike first.
Oh, wow. Gosh, the craziest thing on the internet, I would say mostly utilize the utilization of machines in every wrong way possible. You know, doing, God, I can't even tell you. Yeah, I would just leave it at that. Doing movements on machines that are not really designed to be utilized. You know,
Just answer for that question. A couple years ago in Brazil, you know those sling arms that you put and you hold your body and then you can do leg raises and stuff.
Yeah.
So you support yourself. This coach from Brazil, he got a first day with a personal trainer with the client. First day with the client, put her legs on that thing and then try to do a reverse crunch. So imagine her legs holding where you put your arms and then try to do a reverse crunch. What happened? Her hamstring's not strong enough. She fell on her neck. She got paralyzed. You know, yeah, seriously, very, very bad. Went to the news. Took her like, I don't know, more than 6 months to start moving again and walking, but really big thing, you know. So see, this is type of the craziness that people try to create the all moment, you know, to get like clickbaits or something that we don't want to do as a professional. So, terrible. Professor Kravitz.
I just don't like it when you see people doing such high rep type of exercises and you know, it's just a precursor, like, you know, 50 squat jumps. It's a precursor to exertional rhabdomyolysis for some people. And they're trying to impress you on the internet with some kind of prowess, but it's just unsatisfactory for me.
Yes, just to add that, this was my other news that I pulled from Brazil, because, and we need to remember, we, like, especially Mike as the influencer, they will try to copy you. So if you do this 50 squats and they see, oh, Mike can do, I can do it. Now they could develop rhabdomyolysis, stuff like this. So it's very, very, you know, we need to be careful as influencers, as faculty or professors to teach, okay, progressive overload. You can get to that 50, but takes years of training.
Progressive.
Flavia.
That's a hard question. I have a lot of crazy things that I have seen on the internet. But the two most recent that come to mind, one is a company marketing creatine for women. Like, women and men need different creatine. I was like, okay, this is really getting crazy. The other one was a lady with a lot of followers, and I don't want to say her name, but she was promoting that you don't need a degree in anything to know, and she was challenging like a doctor. I think she was challenging Dr. Jessica on some nutrition comments that she had, and she just, she was saying, you don't need a degree. I've been reading research for 10 years, and you don't need a degree for that. And she was promoting and trying to advise people on things. And yeah, I just think that is super crazy. People do that without saying it, but she was saying it in a proud way, like, you don't need a degree for anything. You don't need a degree to be able to tell people I have been reading about it for 10 years. So that was pretty crazy.
I don't even know how to comment to that, but that's the craziness
I want to
world
send you
that
guys
we
that
live
video.
now.
Yeah.
Oh man. All right, I'll leave it at that. You're not even gonna comment anymore. Another one, good. What is the nicest thing you saw or machine that you try or use in the internet, or you already tested, So a nice thing that you saw on the internet, or equipment you use. What do you guys think? I mentioned this one was one of our externship sites here in Orlando. It's the Alter G treadmill. I don't know if you saw that. There you go, and then you pull like a little sleeve and attach around your waist. And this was developed by NASA. And you inflate so you can reduce your body weight up to 80%. So they use for rehab purposes. Very, very nice. Look it online, Alter G treadmill. They have one here. Advent Health, also another partner here for our Orlando students. They have 3 of those treadmills. They cost $80,000 a piece. And you have cameras, so they help in this place, core. It's when you have like a cerebral palsy, traumatic injuries from car accidents. So they help people to rehab. So you see with the sensors how you step on the treadmill, reduce your weight. So man, this is one thing that I used to do this field trip every year with the students. I let them use this treadmill to try. They love it. That was my thing. Flavia, anything you saw you like?
The nicest thing I saw recently, it's not exercise science related, but it was really nice. The GoFundMe that was done for the 80-year-old guy. I don't know if you guys saw that online, for him to retire. So he's an Army veteran, lost his wife. He told everyone the story. The guy was working 40 hours a week, 80 years old. And he, like, the influencer was able to raise over $1 million. So he's able to pay his debt and retired. So I think that's a very positive way we can use social media for. This guy's an influencer, and it was a beautiful story. Yeah, it made me cry.
Yeah, that's nice. No, that's very nice. Very nice. See, yeah, there's good things too on the internet. There's bad things and there's good things. That's why we're here with the podcast, to show good things. Mike, give me one good thing.
Yeah, I've really have admired and respected some of the top rated like equipment companies in their building stuff in the US for, gyms. I know Dr. Kravitz can speak about this more from a historical perspective, because he's been through that era, like the 70s and 80s, the Nautilus and don't get me wrong. Some of those old school equipment, like, they still work very, very well. And it's a very different feeling and some of the newer companies, but I really enjoy companies like Prime, for example, who are building various, machines of different areas of the body where you can actually enhance the overall resistance profile of that movement. So in case some of the listeners, may not be aware, like if you're doing a line hamstring curl, for example, you can actually adjust the point of the resistance profile to where it's hardest at the bottom, easier at the mid-range, easiest at the top, or set it to where it has more of a constant tension throughout, a given range of motion. So, and I really like that a lot. And I think, companies have come like a long way, and they some of these other companies like Atlantis, Prime, and even Panada, which is an Italian-based company, they look really complex and sophisticated, and there's can be some moving parts, to them, but they've done a really good job of really building in a lot of fail safes and safety and security features with all the equipment. So you just have to find people that actually know how to use the equipment so you can maximize its use.
Great. Professor Kravitz, you're the last.
Well, this will take you back a long way, but at the University of Texas, they have that fitness museum, the Stark Center, STARK Center. Everyone has to go there and see it. You'll see videos and pictures of the earliest products. I just want to share one product. 1920, it was introduced. It was called the Seat of Health, and it was a wonderful rowing machine that had all of the mechanics that the rowing machines of today have. 1920, and they had the right thought. The Seat of Health. When you use it, you will improve your health.
Wow, that's good, Professor. I didn't know that. One day I'll go visit. Very cool. All right, guys, just to wrap it up, Flavia, give like a little statement, encouragement for the listeners to our podcast, anybody that's starting in the field. So anything to help.
Stay current with the evidence because things change, but that's the beautiful thing about science. So have a good perspective on the changes. Stay current, talk to people, network. That's very important, and socialize as well.
Amazing, amazing. Dr. Mike?
Yeah, go to events, speak at events, always be willing to adapt and evolve and innovate and become a real life practitioner.
Ooh, great. Professor Kravitz.
For everyone, your clients, and for you, and for my guests today, Stefane, Dr. Mike, and Flavia, the first thing I do every day when I get up is say an affirmation. Every day, in every way, I'm getting stronger and healthier. The first thing I say every day, and I want you to say that too.
Good, that's good. Self-efficacy, yes, perfect. So for me, just keeping an open mind, you see, so that when you get brilliant people like we have here today, and you always learn, it doesn't matter if you have 20, 30 years in the field, there's always some room for improvement. So keep that open mind mentality, be humble, know your limitations, and keep pushing. This is the journey. It's not like a one day, the guys on the internet today, they just want immediate results. Immediate results, you can get accidents, you can get people hurt, so you're not going to be able to sustain this. So keep progressing, and you're going to see the payoff at the end. So it was a great conversation, guys. I really appreciate you. Keiser gave us this opportunity. We have our wonderful Adriana, the social media master. Heather couldn't be here today. She was in an event, but they run the Keiser Voices. Please subscribe, share. This is an opportunity for us to improve the knowledge and people to get to know good content. Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you to all of our guests on today's episode. We hope you guys enjoyed this conversation as much as we did. And if you did enjoy it, be sure to like, share, subscribe, and follow. And as always, we'll catch you on the next one.
Thank you for journeying with us today on Keiser Voices, the story of success. As we close this chapter, remember every story has its next page.